13. Okay, so welcome everybody to this webinar for differentiation in action, adapting to your learners. In the UK now they call differentiation, they also call it adaptive teaching. So what you can do in your classroom to try and adapt to and make the best learning for each person in your class. Good. Okay, first, a few rules for the webinar to make this a safe place for everyone. So please do not put any of your personal information into the chat box. Okay, just keep everything just related to the webinar. Okay, we can't see your cameras and microphones are also turned off anyway. If you have any questions, please write it either in the chat box, but if you have a specific question, you can also write it in the Q&A box. If there are any problems in the chat box, which you're not happy about, you can also be removed. So we will actually remove you if there's any problems. And please know that this session is being recorded. So if you're not happy with that, please leave. But if you are fine with that, then you will be here with us. Okay, in this session, we have two different languages going on. Well, 3 different languages. So we have English that you can listen to, but we also have Burmese. So if you see on your screen on the panel, I think you'll see a global sign. You can change the language to Burmese, but you can also change it and you can see the sign language interpreter. So Lily will be with us every session. So if you do know someone, if you know a teacher that will also benefit from this, or other people that will benefit, learners as well, then please share this for them in the future. Okay, and if you have any other problems, please let us know at teachingenglish@britishcouncil.org. Okay, use the Q&A if you have a very specific question, and we will try and get to those at the end for the Q&A session. Okay, the certificates will be available at the end. We will give you a link. You will complete the survey, and then you will get your certificates. Okay, if you have any problems, then you can also send a message to the safeguarding team at mm.britishcouncil.org. Okay. Oh, that one's at the end, not that one. Okay, so now it is time for me to pass over to Saya Hintet 9 and Saya Ma Pupuluin, and they are going to get started today for our presentation. So,
thank you, Amy.
Guys.
Thank you, Amy, for your warm welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining this webinar. Today, we are presenting some effective strategies that we can implement in our differentiated classroom that we call mixed level classes. So I think you all come from different teaching backgrounds, and also you all have good experience of teaching English to different levels of students and different ages of students. So we would like to ask you a questions. The question is, in your class, how is one learner different from another learner? So you are going to write the different ways among your learners in the chat box. So for example, their ages or their learning background or etc. Please write in the chat how they are different. Good. Their age. Their learning style. Their educational background. That's really good. Their interests. That's also good. Their language level. Their motivation level. That's really right. IQ, EQ. Parent support. That's really good. You all are right? So now let's look at how they are different among our learners. So first, their differences. The main difference is their ages. So in our class, we have got a students, right? So for example, for me, I'm currently teaching the Cambridge exam preparation course for the flyers level. So I've got a student. Some students are around the age of 8 to 10, but some are in their teenage. For example, around 13 or 14. So in that case, some students are young learner and some are teenagers. In that case, they are different. Though they are joining the same level, their age is totally different. And their interests, based on their ages, their interests are also different. For example, those who are in the age of 13 or 14, they want to discuss the real life question when they speak English, or they want to bring in their real life experience to the class. But the children who are in the age of 8 to 10, they are young enough. So what they want to do is they want to draw the picture, and they want to color, and they want to describe the picture they have drawn. And then they also want to listen to the story, and they want to tell the story to each other when they speak English. And their level is also different. That's very prominent, right? In our class, some students have a strong level of English. Some students are not as strong as those students who can speak English fluently. And another point is their motivation. As you know, some students want to study English on their own. They have got the intrinsic motivation, but some students are forced to study English by their parents, or by their teachers, or by their friends, right? So in that case, their motivation level is also different. You are right. And there can be other differences in terms of the differences among our learners. So the examples are language ability and their multiple intelligences. Another difference among our learner is their learning background and their experience. So we have explore the differences among our learner. So after knowing the differences among our learner, so we want to know how this kind of classroom is called. You already noticed this kind of classroom is called a differentiated classroom. So if you hear a question if you hear a word differentiated class, what do you think that classroom is like? Please write your idea in the chat box. Maybe you can write a short idea, or you can write a short phrase or a short sentence that comes to your mind when you hear a word differentiated class. What comes to your mind? Materials, yes. About the topic, that's good. Ability, how to prepare the text, that's good. A class in diversity, that's good. Different topics, combining different, that's really good. Different pedagogy, that's useful. Okay, now let's continue. According to the standard unit, Improving Differentiation in Business Education 2004, differentiation is defined as identifying and addressing the different needs, interests, and ability of our learners to give them the best possible chance of achieving their learning goals. Right? So we already know the differences among our learner. Though they are different, we can support our learner as much as we can using the corrective and effective strategy to achieve their learning goals. So in this part, you have explored the differences among our learner, and you know the definition of a differentiated classroom. Let's find out let's find out the differences among our learners. So teacher Pugh will share the differences, how to find out the differences among our learners. So teacher Pugh, I would like to give you the floor.
Thank you, Siahe. So in this part of the presentation, we will share how to find out that our students are different. And the first strategy to find out our students' differences is through need analysis. So let me ask you some questions. So what kind of activity can we do for a need analysis? So please type what you think in the chat box. Yeah, we can do survey and assessment. That's right. Educational, emotional needs, questionnaires. Okay, good. So yeah, you're right. We can also do survey and also interview as well. Or we can also check our students' sample written essay or work, right? So let me ask you another question, which is, when would you use a need analysis? In the beginning of the course, or in the middle of the course, or at the end of the course? Please type your answer in the chat box. When would you use a need analysis? Yeah, that's right. Mostly is at the beginning of the course. Okay, so my final question is, do you think it is a bit challenging for a teacher, or it is very easy to use a need analysis. So please share your responses again in the chat box. Do you think it is a little bit challenging for a teacher or challenging? Okay, so for some teacher, challenging. Yeah, it is essential to do. That's right. Difficult, challenging. Okay. Okay, so thank you so much for the responses. So let me share my experience of collecting the data through interviews and student sample writing. So in January 2023, I started joining the CELTA course online. So in the beginning of the course, we have to do the need analysis to get the background information and the differences of our students. While we were doing the focus group interview, we recorded it. Of course, we have to get the permission from the students to allow us to record the interview. Then we have to listen to the interviews very carefully and analyze which areas they are good at and which areas they need to improve. Not just only the interview, we asked our students to write a one-page paragraph about them. Then we have to check and analyze the written work again to find out which areas they are good at. For example, like in which grammar pattern they've already understood it, or which grammar points they need to learn. So finally, we could know more about our learners regarding their interests, strengths, and the area they need to improve. So that is how we also did the need analysis. So another tool we can use to know about our learner is using the KWL chart. So K stand, as you may also know, that K stands for what the student have already known, and W stands for what they want to know about the topic, and L stands for what they learned from the lesson. So before the lesson starts, the teacher can ask the student to draw 3 columns. Then the teacher can ask to write what the student have already know about the topic, and let them write in the first column. And the teacher lets them think about and write what they want to know about the topic in the second column. At last, after the lesson, the students are asked what they learned from the lesson. By this way, we can know our students' differences. Not just only need analysis, there are more activity and strategy we can use to get the data of our students. Like you can see here in this slide. So there are also various types of tests we can use, and also the feedback from the previous teachers as well. Okay. So Sia, next slide, please. So now, after knowing how our students are different, how this class is called, and how to find out their differences or strengths and weaknesses, we are going to share 5 useful takeaways to handle the differentiated classroom. So the first strategy is letting the students choose. I will hand it over to Sayahe. He's going to share some useful tips for the first strategy.
Thank you, Siamapyu. So the first strategy I'm going to share is letting the student choose, as Siamapyu mentioned. So in this part, we will look at how, why, and what we let our student choose, right? So now look at the pictures, and then please think about how they are different in your class. As you see here, some students have the different interest, right? And some students have the different levels of English, ranging from elementary, beginner level to the advanced level. So according to the manual, based on their differences, we should allow our students to choose the questions of the item that they would like to answer or practice. In my class, when I read out a set of questions to check the understanding of to check their comprehension of the reading text, what I normally do is like, some students we give the choice. Some students want to answer the challenging question, for example, like the question that start with why or how, but some of the students want to try the very easy question that start with yes and no, because they are not confident with their level of English, or maybe they are slow learners, or maybe they are trying to learn from others. So for example, another thing we can do is like depending on their interest. So for example, when it comes to the speaking text, after teaching the target language, we going to talk about the near future. So in my class, some want to discuss the AI technology because they are really into technology, but some of the students want to discuss the themes of the music they are going to listen or they are going to watch because they are really interested in art. So in that case, we should prepare the different kind of speaking cards so that they can choose whatever topic they like to discuss based on their interests and wants. Now, let's look at how to let our students choose. As you see in the example 1, students are going to read a paragraph about a dog called Drooly Mooly. So after reading the paragraph, students are going to check their comprehension. So in that case, we prepare a set of questions in which some are challenging and some are easy. Thus, as a teacher, while we can check their comprehension in the differentiated classroom methods, we can start from wherever we like and we read through one question after another. And then make sure you need to read very clearly and loudly enough for students to hear. And then you may need to repeat many times as much as you can. And then at the time, what student can do is like they can pick up the question that spark their interest or that is suitable for their level. So as you see here, some questions like 2, 4, and 5, they are very challenging. So some strong student in your class would like to try. But the questions like 1, 3, and 6, they are very easy. So students with the lower level of English, they want to try. So at the end of the activity, what we find out is like students are achieving their learning goals in your reading lesson in a way that they can find a specific bits of information. That is one of the reading skills that the student really need in their life. So not only that, there can be other online tools that regarding how to let our students choose. The thing is here. So we look at the first picture on the left. This is called the bamboozle game. So, and look at the picture on the left. This is called the Jeopardy game. So we can use these online tools in our class to let our students choose. They can be easily used online. And then let me share my experience of using one of these two in my class. So when I give the control-braided task of the grammar lessons, so I normally use the bamboozle game on the left. So because it is easy to use and it is time-saving. So when I show the screen, student can pick up the number that they would like to answer, and then they practice the target language. At the time, they can practice the different language by doing a lot of choices. So we can use this game not only in the online class, but also in the offline class. In the offline class, we can share the screen on the projector, right? So the purpose of using these online tools are like they are very easy to use and they are time-saving to use, and also they can give the random selection for our students. Moreover, if you can play the game with team by team, one team against another team, so it is also a competitive element for our students. So as you have seen the example above in the two slides, the key takeaway we can learn is we teacher can start wherever we like, and then we read through a set of question items. As students, they can pick up a number of questions that they would like to respond to, and based on their interest, based on their wants, and based on their level. Now, look at another tip. Another tip is like we give opportunity to choose the questions based on their wants. So as you see here, there are altogether 6 questions. So as a teacher, when we give the speaking task or the writing task, we should at least prepare 6 or 7 questions. Out of 6, students can choose 3 questions to interview their partner or to practice the speaking or to practice the writing. But they can choose randomly based on their wants and based on their interests that are suitable for their level. In that case, we can give an opportunity for our learners to choose the question based on their wants, based on their interests, and based on their levels of English. So in that part of the technique, so we have covered how to let our students choose and how should we prepare the text. So now I would like to give you the floor to Siamapu. Siamapu will share another useful technique that we can use in the differentiated class.
Okay, thank you, Sia. So the second strategy that I'm going to discuss is attending to slower learners. So as you can see here in the picture, so the students in the middle, right? So he already got the answer very quickly, but the other 2 students are still thinking, right? So it means that while some students are more confident and active in the classroom, so they are always ready to hand up and they get the teacher's attention easily. However, some are much less comfortable and hesitant to interact, misunderstand the instructions, and constantly make errors. Therefore, we as a teacher need to attend to slower students. If not, they will get behind the other students. Next slide, please. So now let me share with you an example. Here is a choice exercise. When I want my students to do this exercise, I will let them look at the photo and read the sentence first. Then they have to circle the correct answers. This is the individual work and they will have 3 minutes to do that. Then I will wait for 3 minutes when they are doing the exercise. When the time is up, I would say, okay, let's check the answer. Raise your hands if you want to read and share your answer for number 1. I will choose someone to answer when I see at least 10 hands raised. So in most of the classes, we normally instruct like, let's check the answer. Raise your hand if you want to share your answer for number 1. Only that, right? So on that time, as a result, most of the time, only the fast learners share their answer, and the slower learners may not have a chance to share because they are a bit hesitant to raise their hands. So we can add this instruction. Sarah, next slide, please. We can add this instruction. I would choose someone to answer when I see at least 10 hands raised. So slower students will have an opportunity to share their answers, even though this is a bit time consuming, but I still think that it is worth doing this in the classroom because we could include the slower students in the activity. Okay, so next slide. To attend to slower students, we have 3 tips to share here. So the first tip is to give thinking time, which is really important because some students need time to think, to generate their ideas. By getting enough time to think, they will get the correct answer or very good ideas or opinions. So the second tip that we need to consider is giving wait time. For slower students, sometimes, even though they have already got the answer, they are a bit hesitant to share their answers or opinions. So they are thinking in their mind, like, should I share my answer or not? What if my answer is wrong? Or what if my opinion is not the same as the others? So they are thinking in their mind like that. So as a consequence, if we don't give wait time, they will never contribute their answers. So it is important for the teacher to give them wait time. So the last tip is to allow the student to hold hands up. By this way, teacher can nominate those who volunteer less often. So another example is to include the individual work in, next slide, please. To include the individual work in every lesson so that slower students will have a chance to think and work alone. And teachers can support them if they need any help and further explanation. Also, sometimes teacher can form a small group of 3 or 4 of slower students together in a corner of the classroom and work with them privately for a few minutes. By this way, slower students will not be left out. So now Siahe is going to share the third strategy.
Thank you, Siamatu. So thank you. So this time I will share another useful technique called invite different answers, use open questions. So according to Ben Yuwa, use mostly open questions in the mixed ability class because it allows for a variety of responses. So this means that open questions provide students the opportunity to produce as many different or sophisticated ideas as possible at the various level. So now it's time to test yourself. Look at the 2 questions and then type which type of question is closed and which type of question is open in the chat box. That's good. One is open. Yes, you are right. This one is the closed question. For this question, answers are very limited, and student can give you the different answer. They can give only he can or he can't, right? It is suitable for one level of students, not for the differentiated class. So how can we give the opportunity to our students to produce different idea based on their levels or ages? For this, we can ask the open question as you see on this slide. So as you see, student can give the different answer based on their experience or based on their level of age and based on their level of English. And for that example, when I give the question in my class, students with a high level of student will come up with, he can crawl or he can't drive. But those who can use only simple English, they can say he can smile or he can't swim, right? So they will complete the text and they are able to produce their answer based on their level of English. Thus, open question allows students to give different responses in the differentiated class. When it's come to the grammar exercise, we normally prepare the text with the use of closed question. So here are the some example. As you see in number 1, this is the gut feel question. And the second one is the multiple choice question. And the third one is yes, no question. And number 4, it is true for question. They all are closed question. Sometimes we include the matching text in our exercise when we give the practice test to our learner. Okay, so in that case, it is obvious that students don't have many chances to vary their answer, and it is very limited, and the response is also limited, but they are not good all the time. They are good to a certain extent, so they are good to use as the building blocks to understand the deeper concept for our student at the beginning of the lesson before we ask the open question directly, because as you know, open questions are very challenging for them. Another useful way is using the closed question as the concept checking question to check our student understanding. So in my class, if I teach the same difficult vocabulary, or if I introduce the new target language item, so we can normally use the closed question as you see in example 3 and 4 to scaffold their understanding by using that kind of concept checking questions. So they are useful for lower level of students, right? So for these cases that we use closed question, but as you know, there are a few drawbacks of using closed question in our differentiated class. So now let's look at why they are not good for our differentiated class. First, it is suitable for one level of learning. And another thing is like, the closed questions can be difficult for the students below the level. If the answer is very limited and they can give only one, it can be very challenging for them sometimes. And another one, it can be boring or demotivating for the student above the level. So if the question is very easy or they can give the answer easily, they can be demotivated or they can feel bored, right? In that case, closed questions are not good. So the question is, how do we ask better question for a differentiated classroom? Please write the answer in the chat. Please base your own experience. Write the answer in the chat. That's good. Or questions that ask the opinions, open-ended questions. We add both, that's good. Starting the question, do you think? That's a good one. Asking for their idea on the topic or their knowledge, that's good. And their experience, they are really good. You are right. So we normally prepare the open question for in that case, right? So in a differentiated classroom, students can come up with different idea. So we can make closed question to the open question by adding the little WH words in our question. For example, why, or what do you think, or how? In that case, students can invent their answer based on their experience or based on their level. And we can invite the different answer by using the open question. So there are many reasons or there are many advantages why we should stick to using the open question in our differentiated class. The first reason is like it provides the opportunity for our students to respond their answer at the different levels. And another one is like it allows the expressions of personal life experience and opinions. As you all mentioned in the chat, they can give their opinion, right? And then the most important thing is that open questions increase the learner talking time in our class. That's why we should use open question instead of closed question in our differentiated class. In that way, we can invite the different answer of our students. So in that part of my presentation, I have covered how to use open question and what are the advantages of open question in the differentiated class. So in the next part, Teacher Siama Pugh will share another useful strategy that we can implement in a differentiated classroom. Siama Pugh, I would like to hand over the floor to you.
Thank you, Sia. So the fourth strategy I'm going to share now is to limit text by time, not amount. So as we have discussed in the earlier slide, in the mid-level class, students differ a lot in the speed at which they work. So like we can see here in the picture, some students finish very quickly, but some students still need to think to do it. So some exercises take 10 minutes to do for one student. However, they just take about only 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes to finish for another student. So we need to plan to work out for all students. This is to limit the text by time, not amount of the exercises. Next slide, please. So let me share an example. As you can see here in this slide, this is a grammar exercise for beginner students. For these activities, teachers usually instruct the students like complete the conversations. And only that, right? So, and then the student also work on that. So the possible problem that can happen is that the faster students can finish earlier and the weaker students, slower students feel uncomfortable as they cannot finish like the other students. Therefore, to solve that problem, teachers can modify the instruction as described here, you have 3 minutes to complete these conversations. Let's see how many conversations you can finish. Okay, so we modify the instructions. So modifying instruction to limit the text by time, not amount. All the students can stop within the limited time and they can satisfy their work and they will not feel bad for that. Okay. So now let's practice and try these instructions. Sarah, please, next slide. Look at these instructions and decide which questions are for quantity and which questions are for time. So please type the answer in the chat box. So you can write, for example, A, do 6 questions. Is that quantity or time? A is. Yeah, A is quantity, that's right. Yeah, B and D are based on time, that's right. Okay, thank you. So that's right. So and C is also the same instruction, which is for quantity, right? Finish reading the text, only that, right? So but B is do as much as you can in 10 minutes. So that is the limited by time. And also the last one, D, find as many descriptive adjectives as you can see in 5 minutes. So it is also limited by time. Okay. So now I would like to discuss the advantages of limited time. If the teacher limits the activity by time, it can help the teacher with stage transitions to the next activity. So it means that when the time is up, all the students have to stop what they are doing at the same time. So they can move to the next activity smoothly together. Nobody would feel left out. So another advantage is that it can improve the students' motivation because it can add game-like challenges and the student want to finish more within the limited time, so they try their best. So in the mid-level class, limiting text by time is one of the best strategies to apply. So the less useful strategy will be discussed by Siahe. Siahe, now your time is again.
Thank you, Teacher Pugh. So let's look at the last strategy. So before we find out, please look at the picture. And have you ever experienced that kind of class in your classroom? So if you have experienced that kind of classroom, what are they called? Write in the chat. Yes, that's true, Laura. That's called fast finishers. Quick learner, that's a good choice of word. Yes, they set time then, so they are called the early finishers or the fast finishers or quick learner as one of the participant mentioned in the chat in our ELT. So this is one of the essential nature of our classroom in the differentiated class. So we already learned how to help our weak student. Now let's try to learn how to prepare the text for the fast finisher. So in this part, we are going to learn a strategy called give basic text plus options for the early finishers. So Penny will state, tell the student everyone has to do the text A. That text is durable and it is easy to do, it's easy to understand, and everyone can try in your class. So this is called the basic text. But you need to prepare the text speed, which is the optional or extension for the early finisher. You need to include the extension tasks in your lesson plan, or you need to prepare ahead of your lesson. So that's what Benny mentioned in her book. So now I'm going to share some useful tips how to prepare the optional tags for the early finisher in our differentiator class. The first technique is use the question, do at least, and if you have time to. So in that case, we can give the basic tags plus the optional tags. If you look at here, I've got 5 questions that I give to my student in my class when they are talking about the dog they have read. So in that case, 1 to 3 is the basic tags. They can try at least 3 questions on the following. So this is the basic tags, and everyone can do this tag because it is easy. But for the question 4 and 5, I just prepare ahead of the lesson, and then I just include that extension tag in my lesson plan. This is the extension tags or the optional tag, and I will give the expressions like, if you have time, do the exercise 4 and 5. This is the tags for the early finisher. So in that case, we can prepare the extension tag for our learners who finish earlier than other in our lesson. And another strategy is we can make the extra tags challenging and if possible fun, and you make sure it's not as the same as the previous that they have tried. For example, in your class, in my primary level class, most of the young learners are doing the matching tags. They match the pictures and their classroom object. After that, they have to color. At the time, I found out that some 2 or 3 students have finished earlier than other. So they said they are done, right? So in that case, we need to get rid of their burden while they are waiting for other. In that case, what we can do is like draw your favorite classroom object picture and then color it. In that case, it is more challenging and more fun than the previous tag, and it is not the same as the previous tag, right? So, and also the teacher can prepare the ball game. So if the student finish their tags, what we can do is like ask them to play the ball game together. Or there is another useful technique that we can try in our differentiator classroom for the early finisher. This is called pick a ball, right? We teacher need to get a ping pong balls and then we write the tags on the ball. So if the student finish, we can ask them to pick one ball from the box and then student read the tags on the ball and then they do. Or maybe they can do together. Early finishers can do together in the class. So here is the picture. In that way, we can help the early finisher and we can get rid of their burden while we are waiting for others, while they are waiting for others in the differentiated classroom. So I have shared 2 useful strategies how to help our early finisher in our class. So now, Teacher Pugh will share another useful technique that we can implement in our differentiated classroom to help our early finishers.
Okay, thank you, Sia. So let me share with you one strategy that we can use as options for the early finishers, that is creating the learning corner. So as we can see here in this slide, we can create the 4 corners where the students can practice the different skills. So here are the 4 corners: reading corner, listening corner, writing and spelling corner, and speaking corner. So if you want your students to practice some specific skills, you can also create a corner for that skill. Next slide, please. Here, I will share with you only one activity that we can do for the speaking corner. So this activity is called board game. So to play this game, we need dice and board game sheets. So there should be 2 different sheets for 2 different levels at least, so that both faster learners and slower learners can play and practice in their free time. Now, let me also share you how to play this game. First, we have to let 2 or 3 students at least sit together. Then let them decide who will go first and progress clockwise or counterclockwise. After that, let each player roll the dice in hand. On their turns, let the players move their game pieces like papers or small stones along the plot according to the number of the spaces indicated by the dice. Then, when players land on a space, they read the phrase or the question. For example, here in this picture, as you can see, have you ever or when? For example, if the student also get 3 on dice, so the question here is, have you ever traveled by train? Okay. So then he has to share his experience of traveling by train and when he made that trip, or he can give more information for that. However, no player is allowed to repeat something that has already been said. And the game continues until one or all players reach the finish space. Okay, so for creating the board game sheet, if we want our students to practice the specific topics, we can create by ourselves by using the board game templates, as you can see here. Okay, so but if we do not have time to create by ourselves, and then we can also get the ready-made board game sheet on the internet. There are a lot. Okay, so just type board game sheet, and then we can also download it easily and print out, and also just put it in the speaking format. And of course, we have to find the guides. So I think most of the students already familiar how to play this game, because it is also just like the snake and ladder game, that we played when we were young. So that is all what we would like to share in this webinar. And now Siahe is going to wrap up the talk.
Thank you, Teacher Pugh. So today we have learned a lot of useful strategy as the key takeaway test throughout this webinar. So hope they are useful for you all. So now it is time to think about yourself. And then you are going to write which strategies, we have shown 5 strategies in this webinar, right? With some example and some useful tips. So how many can you remember? Write it in the chat box. You can write what strategies or what tips or what examples as much as you can remember. Board game, that's good. Ask questions, that's good. Open and close question, that's good. Reading corner, board game. Extra walk. Asking open questions. KWR chat. Jeopardy game, that's good. Extension tags. Yes, you know a lot. That's really good, everyone. So now we have got 5 differentiation strategy in action to suit the needs and wants of our learner in differentiated classroom. First, we let our students choose based on their interest, wants, and their levels of English. Another one is we keep our slow learners in mind, and we need to help them in different way. For example, giving the individual work, or maybe giving the thinking time, or giving the waiting time, or maybe maybe asking them to raise hand, to hold their hands up, and then if we see 10 hands up, so we can ask the question. In this way, we can help the slow learners. And number 3, we can invite the different answer by using the open question. If we use the open question, students can invent as much different answer as possible in their classroom. And number 4, as you know, we need to, in our differentiated class, time is important rather than the amount of the quantity of the tasks. So we limit the task by time, not by amount. And number 5 is very useful for us. Give the basic task plus the optional task. That's what we call the extension task for the early finishers or the fast finishers, as you mentioned. So now, here comes our thinking time again. So this is the final reflection for you all. So which techniques is the most useful? Which strategy we have shared today has been the most useful to you for your classroom, and which strategy will you implement in your future classroom with your learners, and give the reason why. You have done everything, that's really good. Depending on the topic and situations, they are good, yes. Yes. 3 is good, inviting different answer using open question, that's good. Attend to slow learner, You will use extension tags, Task plus option for early finishers, open questions, additional work, yes. Corner, yes. Learner center, yes. Yes, they all are really good, right? So we wish you happy teaching. Please use these strategies and please try it out in your classroom, and then try to find out the solutions to every problem, right? So after that, we know we can help our students as much as we can to achieve their learning goal in our class. Thank you all for your active participations in this webinar.
Thank you so much, teachers. Thank you, very good. A very active session, very, very interactive, lots of feedback, and everyone remembering all those strategies that you just gave them. Thank you. Okay, we have a couple of questions for you. Can take a minute to relax. Okay, let's get the questions for you. One moment. Okay, so just a couple of questions that came up as we were going along. So one of the teachers was asking about the extension task. So number 5, when you give the basic activity and then you give an extension, does that always need to, do you think it always needs to match the lesson, or does it need to match everything in the lesson? What do you think? Or match that activity? Does the extension activity need to match? What do you think? What advice have you got for that?
In my point of view, I think, yeah, it is still okay if the extra lesson doesn't match with not always match with the main activities. So, for example, like the learning corner, so we can also put some interesting things that they would like to do. For example, in the reading corner, we also have some graded read a book as well. So if they finished early, so they can also go to that corner and also read according to their interest as well.
Yeah, Hinta, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yes, it is good to match the extension tags with the basic tags, because if the student finish the grammar exercise, if they play the ball game, so they have learned the past symbol, so we prepare the ball game for the past symbol. That would be great, right? Sometimes drawing the picture, so sometimes it you know, in that case, right, it wouldn't match with the previous task they have tried. So that's why in that case, I would say sometimes it is good, and sometimes we don't always need to prepare the extension that should be matched with the basic tasks, right? Depending on the topic and the lesson, and depending on their situation. So if they are too bored to do the same task or writing, we can change the activity as much as we need, as much as we can.
Yeah, good. One teacher asked if some of the fast finishers, maybe they will see the extra task as like a punishment. So the next time they do it, they will go extra slow so they don't have to do any work. So I think from what you're saying is that actually the extension task can be something interesting. Like you said, it can be reading, or do you have any other suggestion for that? A way to make sure the task is interesting or motivating for them.
On about giving the reward. So for example, if the student complete their extra tags, we will give a star, or we will give three stickers. In that case, they will be motivated to do the tags, and we can give the bonus point for them, those who finish early and who do the extra tag completely. So in that case, we can do we can give kind of incentive to our learner to finish their tags as much as they can, especially for the early finishers.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Okay, so one of the questions that I think is really relevant is when you're grouping, or when do you group? Do you think it's okay to always, should you always group them like with their level, or should you sometimes group them in different levels, or sometimes group them with their level? What do you think?
I think it depends on the activities and also the topic as well. So for some of the activities, the topic. So on that time, only the faster learners can, if they are in the same group, they can also share more. But in some of the activities, the topic, so it is something the faster learner can help to the slower learner as well. So that they can help each other. So it depends on the situation, the topic and activities.
Yeah. Can you think of an example? Did you have a time when you do group them together with, let's say, a similar level? Because obviously not all students are the same level exactly. Can you think of have you used an activity where you put them in the same level?
Yes. For me, when I give the practice task, so there are two kinds of practice that we normally do when we teach the language system, grammar or vocab. This is called a control practice, and this is called the freer practice. So when we give the control practice exercise, it is better to put a mixed grouping, right? It is better to do a mixed grouping. I mean, like if we put the slowest learners and the fast finishers together so that they can help each other throughout the activity, because it's, teacher control the tasks and they have a limited response. If they miss some information, the fast finisher or the smart student can help other weak student or the slow students. Or but if they are doing the freer practice exercise, maybe they are going to discuss together at the beginning of the lesson as a leading activity, or at the final speaking tasks, or maybe writing tasks, collaborative writing. In that case, it would be better to put the similar level of student in one place so that they can have the same thought and they can have the similar ability to complete the task. So that's my idea, and that's what I normally do in my classroom.
Yeah,
When it's
good.
time for free practice.
Yeah, exactly. Go on. Yeah, Pew, go.
Yeah, relating with the grouping, I sometimes also use the clock partner activities. So they find in the beginning of the clocks, and then I also let them fill that clock partner sheet so that for this activity you can also meet with your 2 o'clock partner. So they by this way. In the next activity, they meet with their 3 o'clock partner. By this way, they meet with the different students and also share their ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Maybe there's a way. It's also about the way that the teacher is going to group. Like you can also have control of that. You don't have to just let them go with anyone and put them in the mixability. It's deciding what would be best for them. And some people are saying that, when you put them in a group of mixed ability, then the faster learners will sometimes dominate that activity, and then the slower learners don't actually get a chance to answer. So, I mean, that's the thing that you're talking about, waiting for the slower learners, giving them a chance to answer. So if you always put them in a mixed ability group to let the faster ones help, they're actually always going to lead and always give the answers. So if you do put them in a group with the people that are more of their level, then maybe they do have more of a chance to answer. So some of the questions also are about, because obviously some slower learners, they are, like you said, Pew, they're more hesitant. Maybe they know the answer, but they're actually just more hesitant to speak. Maybe they're shy, maybe they're quiet, maybe they're like introverted, maybe they don't want to like speak out loud. So you already mentioned like putting their hands up and like waiting. And I think, Heintet, you've already mentioned now putting them in a group. Do you think that's the best way how do we really encourage these students in large classes that are more reluctant to speak? If it's a speaking task, maybe, or more reluctant to participate, do they need to participate out loud? How can we help these sort of shy or quiet students?
Okay. For me, what I normally do is like if they are too shy or quiet when they are asked to speak up. So what I normally do is that I nominate at least 3 or 4, or sometimes I nominate only 2 students. So if I nominate only 1 student, that person is feeling shy, or that person is really frightened to answer, right? If I nominate 2 students, so the one who is confident can answer the question. So in that way, we can help build their confidence level, and we can help them to answer their questions in our differentiated classroom. I think this is the way that we can use to help them to answer the questions.
Yeah, find ways to build their confidence, because a lot of it is just about confidence. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Pew, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Seahe. And also we have to scaffold more with the language to our slower learner as well, so that, for example, instead of sometimes sharing the their opinion directly, so that we also give the option, or so that they can also choose, the language that is really reflect on their opinion, so that they can share easily on that time. But for the faster learner on that time, they can also give their own opinion freely.
Yeah, good. Maybe it's the teacher. Then we have to really think about, what did I do in the class? Maybe I haven't made it clear enough. So we're expecting that the learners, oh, maybe they're too slow. But if you're not attending to them by making it very clear for them, by giving them the models, then they've missed it. Then actually we haven't done our job by helping those. We can't always be pitching the level to the faster students, of course. We should be pitching the level to the lower students to really help them. So I hope that answers that question. I think that was a really good answer to help them. One teacher, Yati Win, also says writing their names on like popsicle sticks or lolly sticks and then picking them out. Do you think that's a good technique?
Sometimes, yes, cold call, yeah. We call it. Normally, I also use that when in my classroom, and the students are really excited and they really like to share as well. Yeah, I think it is really effective as well.
It is, because then don't you think the students then are also prepared? They're a bit more prepared.
Yeah.
Or it will be a random calling, so they're all a bit more attentive. What do you think, Heintet?
I think they are very eager to know who is their partner, and they are eager to do the task, right? And then why the teachers are trying to pick them out. So we are giving the rating time to think about their idea that they are going to discuss, right? That's a good strategy, isn't it? And also another one is that they are more, I think they will be more engaged in the activity with the new partner, right? In the differentiated classroom.
Exactly. So I think the point is here of like giving these like different techniques that the students are ready, that it's going to be different every time. You'll have a different partner every time. So they don't get too comfortable, like sitting at the back and not answering. You're not giving them a chance. You have to help them like engage in different ways. I think that's a really good point. Okay, let's check. Do you think that some slower learners feel like they're getting left behind? Is that the job of the teacher? What can the teacher do there if they feel like the slower learners or some learners in their class are being left behind? What should the teacher be doing there?
For me, if I have to give the students the listening practice, so they are going to listen to the sounds and they are going to complete the worksheet. So I just make the entire assignment. So the first worksheet is very easy for the slower learner. They are listening to the same sound, right? And they are doing the worksheet. They know that, right? But as the teacher side, teacher need to prepare a lot of worksheet for the same context or for the same topic, right? So in that case, they would never feel like they are left behind, or they got motivation. They are doing the same thing as other in the class, and they never felt they left behind. So in this way.
Good. Teacher Pia? Do you have any learners like that you feel like what would you do if you have one learner that's feels like they're a little bit behind?
For me, I also sometimes I also give some extra text to them to do some extra work outside of the class, and also take time and also explain what the lesson is about, and also like that, so that when I also do that lesson in the class, so they are ready to discuss with the other students at that time.
Good, thank you. So I think the main point of what you're both saying is actually knowing which students they are.
Yes.
The differentiate case, the teacher doing differentiated activities in their lesson and using different techniques is because we actually know which ones are maybe a little bit slower, and which ones are a little bit faster. And then that's really the first step, isn't it? Like you said, going back to the needs analysis and knowing who your students are and knowing what they need. do you have any final points? We are coming right to the end. Any final points from either of you?
The final point is sometimes, even though we also, not sometimes, I think mostly, even though we also, let them take the placement test before we also put in the right level. But even though they take the same text and also get the same level, but the students are different in the classroom a bit, based on their interest. And so we really need to find out the student differences first so that we can also prepare the lessons, which is really suitable with them as well. So what
Good.
about Sia?
For me, there are two key points that we need to know as a recap. So first, keep your learners in your mind. And you need to know about your learner at all times, right? Not only at the beginning of the lesson, not only in the middle of the lesson, all the time you need to know about the learner. After that, you need to decide which activities are suitable for your learner, which topic in the course book are very interesting for them. If it is not very interesting for them, you should change depending on their interest, right? So all the time, we should keep our learners in our mind, whenever you are teaching, which course book you are using.
Exactly. Good. Keeping our learners in mind. Good. So if you look in the chat box also, just put some extra links that the teachers have found relevant. There's a British Council series on differentiation that you can also watch. And also in the chat box now, I've also put the PowerPoints from the teachers. So you can look at that again. So now we are coming to the end of our session. Very informative session, and hopefully a lot of good things that everyone can take away. And also the point is they're very small things that you can try in your classroom. Okay, so do have a look back at the PDF at the presentation so you can see if there's any of the relevant questions. We will also try and post them again on our Facebook page. So if you did ask a question and it is really relevant, then the teachers can answer, and we will also try and put some of the useful questions onto the Facebook page. So thank you very much to everyone for joining. Thank you. So if you would like to get a certificate, then you can use this QR code. Please do use the QR code, and I will also put can we put the form link into the chat also? Thank you very much. I'll leave that there just for a second so you can use it. You can see now the link is in the chat box also, so you can give some feedback, because we always learn from our feedback. As a teacher, we should also always ask our learners for some feedback. So thank you very much for joining. Next week, so we have two more webinars in this series, this teacher takeaway series. We have two more webinars. Next week's one will be on Wednesday. Next one will be on Wednesday, and next week is all about social and emotional learning, disability and inclusion, and we have a really good panel discussion for you, and also share some strategies and how to think about those things in our classroom. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining.